Welcome again to Dave Blaze over there in the States, and it's looking good. Springtime has arrived.
Rodney, I want you to know that you are the only major media source that I will do interviews with outside of the United States.
Is that a compliment?
It is. It is because you have a long history of great media content, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
There we are. I always beware of compliments from Dave. There's usually something behind it. But we'll carry on. Listen, we've got to educate ourselves today, and especially in Europe, because we're not familiar with the way politics works. Now, we start with basics, Dave.
Okay,
MAGA, everybody knows Make America Great Again. And there's
right,
another GOP, the Grand Old Party. Now,
right.
what do these stand for?
Well, the Grand Old Party is the nickname for the Republican Party. Yeah, that's all it is. They call it the GOP, but it's the Republican Party, and they nicknamed it the Grand Old Party or whatever. But it's better than the Democrats, who used to be the Whigs.
Now, the other thing, of course, is the colours are reversed in the States, whereas it is the socialists, the Democrats, if you wish, the Labour Party in UK that is red, but that's Donald Trump's lot. And the blue, which is traditionally the Conservatives in England, that's the opposite anyway.
Right, right, right. The red pill are the Republicans, and the blue pill would be the Democrats.
Now, it's a lot easier for you
So,
stateside in many ways because we have lots more parties than you do.
it's true.
Yeah, and that creates a possible difficulty, which I foresee happening in the next election in the UK. That being that they will be a coalition and nothing will get done. At least in America, you're either rightish or leftist. If you're leftist, forgive me, Dave, you don't get anything done, it seems, looking at Joe Biden's career.
Well, it's interesting with that because don't forget the progressive left, the far left, they didn't like Biden either. So even though that he was the choice that they had to vote for, but they really didn't like Joe Biden either because they considered Joe Biden, he was an establishment Democrat, and the progressives the progressives want to drastically change the landscape of the American culture, as do the far right, the woke right, want to do the same thing. So it almost here in the United States, it's almost like the woke right and the woke left work together. They kind of work together because they have a common goal, and that's to completely change American society and culture. It's not going to happen, but that's their goal.
Right. Now, would you say, if we're talking about the far left in America, would you call it Marxist?
Well, I don't know if I'd call it Marxist. They have Marxist characteristics, but they go above and beyond Marxism and to the in various directions depending on what they're told that their new concern should be. So it's a difficult thing, and I keep wanting to point out to you, Rodney, that in the United States we also have the woke right. So we have the woke right and the woke left.
Where's an Antifa come in all this? Antifa.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because it's coming to light, and your audience might even get to see this sooner than later. Is that Antifa is who goes, Antifa is short, of course, for anti-fascist. So Antifa, who was always thought to be on the far progressive left, might also have been funded by the far right, and they actually joined forces because they're chaos agents. The far right and the far left are the same thing. They're chaos agents. So, those people should be accepted for the fringe that they are and just discounted.
What about changing sides? Now, traditionally in UK,
Yeah.
once you're born Labour, as an example, whatever happens, you stick with that left side feeling. But is it the same in the States, or do they jump ship?
Oh, people jump ship all the time. So in the United States, it's more like, let's say you're a conservative, right? Or you're a Republican, and there are things that you disagree with the Republican Party. You can become an independent and have no party affiliation, and then you have the leeway of voting for either candidate. Now, of course, you can't participate in what we call our primaries, being an independent, but you're not associated with a particular party.
Mm.
So that's kind of the first step that people go. Like, they don't want to go full bore to the other extreme of the political spectrum. So they kind of, well, I'm just going to be unattached. I just want to be unattached for a while.
There's another comparison for you. We're in Spain at the moment, and
Ah,
they don't jump ship easily, especially the biggest part of the vote, which is the older ladies. They never change their opinion. Whatever happens, they will vote left.
well, I mean, that might be so in Spain, but for the most part, um, you know, older women, or I shouldn't say older women, but the more mature woman, um, you know, they vote conservative as well. And in the United States, most of them, I have to say, mature women in the United States, the backbone of this country. I know people don't like to hear that, but that's what they are.
What about percentage votes? Are you high percentage or medium or even low? In the UK, it's about 60% on a general election that will actually
Yeah,
turn
well,
out to
same here.
vote.
Well, let's say, well, we can get up to 30 or 40%.
That's quite low. That would be
I
very
know.
low
We have 360 million people, and let's say there's 300 million that can vote. And if in any given election we have 110 million that actually vote,
what are the rest doing?
the rest is sitting home complaining.
Yeah, that's the usual way.
That's basically what it is. The rest is sitting home complaining and whining about why they don't have this, why they don't have that, and have been convinced that voting won't matter. Your vote doesn't matter. How are you going to vote your way out of this? That is the absolute stupidest idea that anybody can have, because it's just as it is in Spain and Europe and the UK. It's in the United States. Our vote matters, and what these political parties do is they send out these chaos agents to make people believe that their vote doesn't matter, but their vote does matter, and that's why they spend so much time and effort convincing you it doesn't matter. I'll tell you what, Trump supporters have had, over the past, I would say, 8 to 10 years, the largest ever psyop, psychological operation performed on them to dissuade them from voting. Now, it didn't work in 2024, and President Trump won re-election, okay, for second term. But there is an all-out effort, especially on social media, by some large social media accounts, to make Trump supporters think that Their vote doesn't matter. Make them dissatisfied with the administration, disgruntled, tired, whatever it is, and keep them from voting.
It's a new weapon, isn't it? Social media, and everybody's into this big time. I mean, does it
Yeah.
have a mega effect on the vote or not?
Yeah. Yeah. Social media plays a big factor because, look, first of all, social media gave a voice to everybody, no matter how dumb their ideas are or their thoughts, to express them online to everybody. Whereas before social media, you had to keep things to yourself. But social media plays it's a big factor in elections and public opinion and so on. And then a lot of time and money is spent on swaying the public through social media.
Generally speaking, in our analysis, what about the
Yeah.
younger people, the Gen Zers? Who they vote for, left or right?
Actually, a lot of them are independent, and there is an aggressive psychological war going on right now for the minds of the young people, especially young men. Especially young men. These groups are trying to capture them into this hyper masculinity, and so it's really a strange time. It's really a strange time. So
Is
we can
this
we can go into that in our next interview, but it is a strange time here, Rodney.
yeah. Well, is this a reaction against feminism? We rejoice in many things coming over the pond from the US, but feminism, which you've given us, oh, it's causing havoc.
Now, hasn't feminism been put to death by the fact that transgender men are participating in women's activities? Isn't that like the effective end of feminism?
Well, you'd think,
Everything's come like full circle now. Women wanted to be involved in men's activities, and now men are involved in women's activities.
well, there you go. No, we can't even decide in Europe who is female and who is male. We get time. Yeah, it's not the place to be. And we've still got plenty of that in Europe because let's, at this stage, because mention the war.
All of these situations, like worrying about, what transgenders are going to do, and who can define what's a woman, aren't those the problems of a bored society? Aren't those the problems of a bored society? I mean, frankly, if there was some kind of catastrophe that hit in Europe, wouldn't those notions just they'd go right out the window, wouldn't they?
Well, you would hope
How
so.
much does worrying about men in women's sports affect you paying your mortgage? How about your water, your gas and electric bill? Does it
I,
affect your
I,
gas and electric bill? You go to the grocery store. Is it affecting you? Oh, I can't buy oranges. There's transgenders around. They're playing in women's volleyball. I can't buy a bag of apples. Is that happening? It's a
it,
non-issue.
well,
No
the
one really cares.
States are obviously ahead of the game because I would think, statistically wise, there's at least a quarter or a third. Mainly they vote Green in the United Kingdom that are well heeled because they can afford to be, and therefore they can come out with their weird ideas.
I understand. I understand what you're saying, but in the grand scope of things, look, you have a vast media operation there. So what I'm getting at is these other psyop operations try and get people distracted away from things that are important and how things affect their lives and worrying about situations that have really no effect on them, such as this.
Well, let me give you an example, Dave. Let me give you an example.
All right, give me an example.
I've mentioned the Greens to you that have just won an important by-election in the Manchester area,
Okay.
and their platform is everybody allowed in the country from anywhere in the world. Drugs should be freely taken. Um, they've gone a bit wild, to say the least, and they've got in on that ticket, and it gets worse. The leader of the party is strange, and he has come from a background of psychology, and he spent his time at one stage saying to ladies, come into my parlor because by hypnosis I can increase the size of your breasts. And they did. And some of them, it is reported, felt a tingling sensation. But this is his ticket, and he's got in, and people are voting for him. Would that happen in
Well,
America?
not exactly that. Not exactly that, but things similar. I have to say that that's boy, that's clever. That's clever. I've never getting get gropers unite under this guy's tutelage. But look, the idea that a nation, you see, anybody that's stating that people should be able to travel freely from one country to another and make resident and so on. Okay, okay, let's go with that. Sure, we'll invite everybody in, but everybody's not getting the government money. You see, there is the difference. What they want to do, they want to migrate to nations where then they can get on the government on the public's on the public money. That's why they're migrating there. Okay, so these are the things that have to be ironed out. In the United States, Trump has effectively closed the border for all intents and purposes. The next step, which our Congress is not going to do because it's a political nightmare, but what needs to happen is we need to reform our immigration system. We need more judges. We need more courts down by the border. We need to be able to process people better, keep track of them better, and so on. That's what needs to happen. We need immigration reform, real immigration reform, and who knows? Who knows if it'll happen? But for right now, the border's closed, so we can at least, after all those years between Obama and Biden of just an more or less an open border policy, we need to catch our breath.
Yeah. Now, the
And then
reason
the other
we're,
thing is, Rodney, let's not forget that there's a whole hullabaloo from the Democrats, from the left, and the far left especially, about the ICE, our immigration enforcement officers going out, basically, finding people that are here illegally and removing them from the country. But this also is a twofold thing because the people that ICE was going after, they were also busting up sleeper cells prior to this operation now that the United States and Israel are undertaking in Iran. So that had to be done. And, it makes you wonder why the Democrats are so upset about that.
we're talking this way because there's been an interesting program put out by CNN, who
Yeah.
is fair to be say are quite left in their interpretation and delivery of news. But even they have said, well, Trump's getting 100%. People
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
approving of what he's doing now.
Yep. As a matter of fact, our George magazine ran a poll that got 55,000 responses, 54 and change, and showed overwhelmingly that 76% of the people that responded to this poll believe President Trump is doing a great job.
Now, this
So
refers to the war, does it, as well?
no, it refers to overall.
Right. What
Overall.
now? Trump does not get the best of press in Europe, especially Britain.
Right.
And all the papers, even the righty papers, never mind the lefty ones,
Yeah.
are having a go. Now, that's not America, then, is it?
No. No. In the United States, people are supporting President Trump. Oh yeah, and as a matter of fact, the Trump supporter base is growing. CNN brought that out in a special segment where they covered not for anything, but they were covering an NBC News poll. So it wasn't a George Magazine poll. They were covering an NBC News poll that reflected the same thing, that the Trump supporter base is growing since 2024 when he won the election.
Trump has famously said to the Europeans, "You've got no spine, you should be supporting us. We've paid all this money into the United Nations for years. We
Yeah.
expect better." You agree with that?
Well, of course. They want, like Germany. They say, oh, why didn't you do something? The United States should have done something about Crimea before Russia took over Crimea. And Trump was like, well, why didn't you? You're right there. But see, Germany can't because they're buying all their gas from Russia, right? So they can't.
The dollar is
They don't like
behind
it, but
everything. Yes, I know.
what they got to do,
Now, the other
right?
thing that's coming out of this war situation, there is a large
Yes,
country in the Far East called China,
right,
and they've been infiltrating for decades the West, and they're having a real go and taking opportunity during the window of the war, and they're getting at the United Nations. Very clever. Now, at the moment, the US is funding the United Nations about 22% of
right.
their income, if you wish. And China now is 21%, up from about 2%, because they want leverage that way to influence the world and who's in power. Are we afraid of the Chinese in America?
No, no, we're not afraid of the Chinese in America. The Chinese economy, first of all, is not doing all that well. They've been cut off of from cheap Venezuelan oil, and now they're not going to be able to buy their cheap, very deep discounted Iranian oil, right? Because so that's slowing up. They're having to now purchase oil from conventional sources like Saudi Arabia, and in doing so and buying from Saudi Arabia and the OPEC nations, they have to convert their currency to what? US dollars. So they're buying up US dollars. The US dollar index is on the rise. It's over 100. It's over 100 right now. Yesterday was 102. The dollar is very, very, very strong. So bye-bye BRICS. We can say goodbye to the BRICS nations. And that whole thing, that's all over with. So now, you understand something about China and Russia and Iran. Russia and Iran are like this. They're hand in glove. China's more about money, right? They're more about monetary gains. How can we squeeze out another 5% out of this trade deal? How can we make a little bit more money here, a little bit more money there? Maybe if we get some of our people infiltrated, learn some more, we can squeeze some more money out of them. That's the Chinese mentality. Russian mentality is conquer.
Yeah, expansionist. Yeah.
Expansionist. That's right. That's right. That's right.
I've got a
And the
lot.
Chinese know, listen, the Chinese know that their economy depends on the United States. If we were to truly decouple, which we won't, but if we were to truly decouple from China, China collapses overnight. They know that.
Okay, I've got a final question for you, an easy one.
All right.
How long's the war going to carry on?
Well, I would have to say that the actual kinetic battles, not too much longer, maybe another couple of weeks. And then it all hinges on the regime because we cannot allow that regime to stay in power. That regime's got to go. They got to go because they're nuts. As soon as you give them an inch or a little leeway, they'll go right back to doing what they were doing before. Can you imagine if Iran had nuclear weapons? They'd sell it to Hezbollah, they'd sell it to Hamas, the Houthis, they'd be blowing stuff up all over the place. And then Iran would have nuclear warheads among their vast missile production, right? It'd be very difficult to identify them. No, no, those people are crazy. You can't allow them to have a nuclear weapon. So that regime's got to go, and then the Iranian people are going to have to step up. But that'll take some time. That's why President Trump doesn't want to destroy their oil reserves or their pipes, right? Because then that really hurts the future of the nation. So instead, we're just strategically bumping off their leadership.
Well, there's a kind thought to end. Dave, thank you for information stateside. Fascinating. We'll see you next week.
All right, sure will. All right, Rodney.